And we are joined, as promised, on the Hoops HQ show with Todd Golden, the head coach for the Florida Gators. He joins us down in Gainesville, Florida. Todd, thank you for being on the show. Let's start with the big picture here, your experience coming off a national championship. I'm sure a lot of people told you that your life would change based on the results of that game and that tournament. What's the most surprising part about the experience and all that you've dealt with as the coach of the reigning national champs?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you, Seth, and Andy, as always. I think a couple things. Number one, right after the championship game and you win and you wake up the next morning and you don't really feel that different, to be honest. You just wake up and you're what's won is done, and you start thinking about, all right, what comes next? And so you kind of realize that the joy is in the doing, right? And being around your team every day and being able to accomplish that together. But you don't get to celebrate it very long, especially nowadays. So the focus was going right back to building, the team back up for this coming year. And, in terms of how life changes, expectation, that's the thing that I keep going back to. After winning the national championship, we just had a lot more expectation this year from a program standpoint, from a player performance standpoint. And it took us a little bit early in the year to kind of battle our way through that. But I think we're better for it at this moment.
Todd, I was with you guys at the beginning of the season in that opening game. And, you got, I don't know if lucky's the right word, but, in terms of pieces fit last year, they fit. And you had a couple of holdovers. This year, maybe it just took a little bit longer, and that's normal. A lot of schools are experiencing that, where it took maybe till late January, February for all of it to fit. What was that process like this year as compared to last year in terms of trying to get the transfers and the returnees all to fit together?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge for us early on. I think last year we returned a lot in regards to guys that were already in the program with Walter, Will, obviously Tommy Kondo. So those guys, had a lot of continuity and really understood how to play with each other. Whereas this year we had the front court back with Tommy Kondo, Ruben, and Micah. But all four of those guys we asked to take on more this year and to play bigger roles and to take on more usage offensively. So those guys were kind of uncomfortable early on, just taking on more. And then we bring in Xaivian and Boog, and we asked Irby to take on more responsibility coming off the bench. So, I think this year, all 8 guys that are playing had to take on more. And so that process took a little bit. Obviously, we're playing 2 point guards with Boogie and X Lee. And I think it took us a little bit for those guys to get comfortable playing together, playing off the ball a little bit, which they weren't used to in the past. And, we didn't make it easy on ourselves playing UConn, Arizona, and Duke early. I'm not sure those are the types of teams that you want to try to get your footing against. But, we fell a little short in those games, but we knew that we had a chance to be pretty good if we stayed the course. And the thing that I'm most proud of with this team is that we stayed together. We were 5-4. It was, everybody was talking about how Florida, was a flop, or Florida wasn't anywhere near as good as they were last year. And our guys stayed the course. They didn't splinter. They didn't point fingers. And it allowed us to really work together in December to get better. And I feel like we're improving the right way as we get into the heart of the season here in February.
See, that to me, Todd, is such an interesting process because I feel like coaches, could go one of two ways. It's kind of very similar to being a parent. You talk about these outside expectations and trying to live up to what happened last season. On the one hand, you can say we got to tune that out. We got to stay locked in. It's just the people in this locker room. But there's also a realism that you are coaching young men who live on social media. It's not like you can pretend it's not there. So let's address it head on. Which avenue did you take?
Yeah, no, we tried very hard as a staff to, kind of separate last year's team and success from this year's team, because we knew it was going to be a much different and a much harder challenge to start the year. So we talked about that a lot. But to your point, the social media, that was an issue for us early on. A couple guys had some tough games early, and then they're hearing from national people about them not being up to snuff compared to last year's team. And even here in Gainesville, guys were getting ripped on social media after we had some tough games. So we definitely had to address it. We didn't run from it. And then we did talk about how you said, hey, listen, man, we know here in this locker room and within the 15 guys on this team and the 10 guys on our staff that are here every day working together, what we're capable of. And we can't allow, outside noise and expectation to affect what we're trying to do. And our guys were mentally tough. They did a good job. And we dealt with some of that adversity and some of that confidence issues early. But I feel like they responded the right way and we're better for it now.
So to that point, I think Xaivian Lee is a great example of that, where he, block out the noise. There was a lot of flack going around. Oh, could he go from Princeton to the SEC and take over the reins? And look, there's a natural progression to raise your level, and he had to do that. And now he's playing, exceptionally well. How did you sort of coach him and mentor him through that as he went from an Ivy League lead guard to being one of the better lead guards in the SEC?
Yeah, he first of all, you're exactly right. He's been amazing. These, really the last month, 2 months, in terms of the way he's played, and we knew that he was a very good player. Coming from Princeton, he did great things up there. Always played well against top competition when he was at Princeton, and we knew it was just a matter of him getting comfortable. And so for me, I tried to do everything I could to let him know that we had his back, even when he wasn't shooting the ball well early in the year. I told him, I said, bro, we're rolling with you. So, you got to find a way to get comfortable and, to make, fit in these different lineups and, in certain lineups, and you can be a little more aggressive. So that was an adjustment for him because we held him to a much higher standard defensively. We held him to a much higher standard rebounding, taking care of the ball. And now he's playing with 4 other guys that are really, really good, really talented. Some guys that'll play in the NBA. So that was an adjustment, and we knew it wasn't going to happen overnight. And the same thing for Boog, that it was going to take a little bit of time. But he was tough. He stayed the course. I give him a lot of credit because he was getting hounded early on in the year about not being good enough and not, doing his part. But we believed in him, and we knew if he stayed the course and stayed tough mentally that he'd be all right. And now he was SEC Player of the Week last week. He's doing a great job, and his elevated play has taken our team to another level.
And his backcourt mate, Boogie Fland, I think you could say a lot of the same things about Todd, particularly his ability to manage the team, his assist to turnover ratio, not trying to do too much. And again, here's somebody coming as a transfer from Arkansas, high level, high profile. I'm sure he's well compensated for making that change. And that comes with a lot of stress. So how have you coached him through all of this?
Very, very similarly. I think early on, it's tough for a guy coming in as a point guard to a team that just won the national championship and trying to find that balance of being a leader and being vocal, but at the same time respecting the guys that had been in the program and had done it and trying to find the right way to partner with them on a day-to-day basis. And, again, that month of November when we were kind of going through that tough stretch, like we were just trying to find our way a little bit and, try to find a way to be consistent. And the thing that I credit Boog with is he's been elite defensively. He's done a great job at the point of our defense, leading us to being a top 5 defense in America. And you said it, he's managed our team incredibly well. His floor presence, the pace in which he plays offensively, and also just the understanding of kind of finding guys in the right spots and getting them in their comfort zone. He's done a great job as a floor general for us this year.
Todd, I know we have still a couple more weeks left of the SEC, but from a macro sense, SEC tournament or a postseason tournament like that and the NCAA tournament, you've done it. What's the best way to coach and lead your team back to back to back days to win a title, and then over the course of 3 weeks, 3 weekends to do the same?
It's as cliche as it sounds, it's a one day at a time thing, especially in that SEC tournament. We want to win it again if possible, but you're gonna have 3 incredibly difficult games. For last year's experience, we were really fatigued after the SEC tournament. We find a way to win it. It was a huge moment for our program. We get the 1 seed, but we were definitely dragging a little bit those next couple of days, and then it bled into Raleigh, where I felt like we weren't playing with the same level pop against Norfolk, and then we get into that game against UConn where we had our backs against the wall. And it wasn't really until after that win that I felt like we kind of recovered and got our legs back under us. So that's something that we got to be mindful of this year. But when you're playing in those tournament settings, it's all you got to find a way to win. So you don't really worry about staying fresh and staying ready as you get to the tournament. A little too competitive to be thinking about that, but it's just one of those things that you just got to do everything you can to find a way to win, and then take advantage of the time you have after to recover before you get to the tournament.
Obviously, everyone wants to win these conference tournaments. That's why you play them. But I know in covering the Big Ten, like there's definitely with the Sunday final, there's definitely been issues of teams if they play certainly Thursday or Friday, they can get upset and have been upset. So I do think that is an issue of how you manage that quick turnaround. What's your advice for those coaches that then play on Sunday and then may have to play on Thursday?
Yeah, well, we 2 years ago we had to play 4 games in 4 days and to make it to the SEC tournament, and we were definitely fatigued. Fell short against Auburn, and we were definitely tired going into the NCAA tournament playing against Colorado in Indianapolis, and it's definitely a challenge. I think for us in our league, one of the huge advantages is being a top 4 seed in the SEC tournament, because that means you only have to play 3 games in 3 days to win one, and so that was an advantage that way. But it's definitely something you have to be thinking about. My best advice is pray that you get games on Friday in the NCAA tournament. That was a big advantage for us last year. That's one thing that can help you out quite a bit.
Todd, just to wrap this up, on a macro level, state of the game in college basketball, you were definitely one of the more outspoken critics of Alabama and Nate Oates and their efforts to get Charles Bediako eligible. Andy and I kind of had a disagreement about this. Andy sort of felt like if you're someone like Charles Bediako, you made the decision to go pro, then you should, live with the consequences. I sort of felt like, hey, that's what the legal system is for. And if he wants to, take his shot, he should take his shot. And, we know how it ended up, but I feel like coaches are kind of betwixt and between on this. On the one hand, everybody says, well, we need to have rules and stick to it. But then on the other hand, when a coach has the ability to make his team better and win some more games, I don't know too many coaches who would turn that down. So what are the responsibilities right now in this uncertain environment of coaches and schools when what's good for their program might be at odds with what their colleagues want, or maybe what's best for the game overall?
It's definitely, I think we're at an inflection point a little bit in regards to, a lot of these eligibility questions and issues. And you listen, for the Bediako situation, I don't fault Nate for doing what he did to try to get a guy that had been in his program back eligible. They felt like they needed a little bit of a lift in the front court. Obviously, Charles is a great player and helped them in their time. But with that being said, that eligibility piece, it was understood in our profession that if a guy stayed in past the draft deadline, that they weren't coming back to play college. And now with him playing, on that TRO, and then it, got flipped again, and now he's not allowed to play. Like we just want a little more direction in regards to, how these situations are going to be handled. To your point, the legal system stepped in. I don't know how much the NCAA can do once that happens. I think it's a little bit out of their hands. But listen, the college basketball, I don't think has ever been healthier or ever been more competitive. So, a lot of people want to focus on some of these issues, but big picture, macro wise, our game's in great shape. And I think, as long as we can get a little more direction on some of these issues, it'll make things easier for us to operate in a healthy environment. And also, I think it gives more clarity for the student athletes. Right now, I think these high school guys are up against a tough situation with a lot of these older Europeans coming over, a lot of these older American guys getting extra years. And we're going to get a little bit of a backlog coming out of high school where these guys are going to have no opportunities to continue playing, where, 10 years ago, they would be going to high major schools. I think that's a little bit of the situation we're in. And we got to sort that out. But at the same time, our product's really good. Our ratings are as high as they've ever been. And, I think we have an opportunity to continue to raise our game if we handle these situations the proper way.
Best of luck over the weekend and the rest of the year. Florida head coach Todd Golden on the Hoops HQ show.